has proposed military-level talks about the war in Syria. It comes amid US concern about Russia's military build-up there. Well, the US Republican presidential candidates have been facing off in their latest televised debate. Let's cross live now to Simi Valley in California and speak to Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher. Alan, there's been a lot of attention placed on Donald Trump, hasn't there?
Well, he was going to come under attack simply because the bubble that he created after the first debate hasn't gone away. And the other candidates were hoping that it would simply dissipate, that people would see through him and that he would be revealed. And that hasn't happened. So what they had to do was go on the attack, and they did. Scott Walker said that what we don't need in the White House is another apprentice, a direct reference to the TV show that made Donald Trump really famous here in the United States. Carly Fiorina also had several attacks on him. Jeb Bush made faces, held his hand up, essentially accused him of trying to bribe his way. Bribe is perhaps a strong word, but used political donations to get casinos down in Florida when he was governor. So they were really piling on to Donald Trump, who didn't react terribly well. He struggled a bit. He managed to get a few laughs from a few lines, but there weren't as many rounds of applause as he enjoyed in the first debate. So if the plan was to try and tear him down a bit, I think they probably did a fair bit of damage. His answers will have appealed to his core supporters, but those who were perhaps swaying on whether or not they could support Donald Trump, I don't think they'd been overly impressed by what they heard and what they saw tonight.
OK, so who would the viewers have been impressed by?
Well, Carly Fiorina, who was in the junior debate the last time round and managed to get herself to the top table this time round, well, she really impressed. She came across as authentic, strong, and even responded very well to attacks on her business record. She's a former computer firm executive. Donald Trump struggled a bit. Marco Rubio did well in places. He looked well rehearsed and always managed to get his answers back to his own story or talk about American greatness. And I think he'll end up many people's second choice. John Kasich again came over as the voice of moderation in the Republican Party. Jeb Bush did OK. Donald Trump struggled. Scott Walker, who was an early frontrunner, well, he really virtually disappeared tonight, as did Mike Huckabee. This debate will shake things up. Many people think that these debates aren't important. You can't win the nomination because of a debate performance, but you can lose it. And if you're as lackluster as Scott Walker was tonight, that will have people who normally donate to his campaign looking at whether or not they can continue to support him. So big winner, Carly Fiorina. Big loser, Donald Trump probably didn't do as well as he would have liked and certainly came under attack.
OK, Alan, thank you very much for that. Let's stay with this story. Jason Johnson is the Professor of Political Science and Communication at Hiram College. He joins us live from Atlanta. You've been watching the debate. What are your thoughts so far? It's still on air. It hasn't finished yet.
It is an absolute marathon. Part of what's going to be interesting tonight is how long the American public has actually watched this debate and whether or not they're just going to pick up the highlights. Because if you watch the entire debate, you may get a different impression as to who won than if you just watch the highlights later. OK, so who would you say has come off best from this? The person who has come off best from this, believe it or not, is Ben Carson. And he did terrible in the first debate. He only spoke for about 6 minutes. He, heading into this debate, was pretty much tied with Donald Trump. And so while all the other candidates decided they wanted to attack Trump as the front runner, it gave Ben Carson the opportunity to really explain himself and speak much more aggressively than he had in the past. I think a lot of the candidates missed an opportunity to go after both of the front runners, and I think Carson and then next Carly Fiorina are going to come out of this the victor.
Do you think it's his lack of experience at quite high political levels that is appealing to Americans? Are they sick of White House politics, do you think?
Well, I think the Republican primary voter are sick of White House politics because they're generally unhappy with their own political party and they're really unhappy with President Barack Obama. So for those reasons, that helps Donald Trump, that helps Ben Carson, that also helps Carly Fiorina. But the other thing about Ben Carson is he appears to be the only devoutly evangelical Christian who seems to focus on that issue consistently, whereas the other candidates, whether it's Huckabee, whether it's Walker, whether it's Marco Rubio, they don't seem to stay on the values voters' issues as much as Ben Carson does.
OK, let's talk policy. I think we heard a little bit more detail on policies, in particular from Carly Fiorina. How did she do? How did she perform?
She performed amazingly well. In fact, one of the most impressive things about Carly Fiorina is her fluid knowledge of not only the policy issues of the United States as far as Iran, in dealings with the Middle East, in dealings with Syria, but also when it comes to North Korea and it comes to issues of immigration and linking those together. And what's particularly damaging about how successful she was in explaining her point of view is that's supposed to be the strength of Marco Rubio. That's supposed to be the strength of Jeb Bush. And so the fact that an outsider can speak on foreign policy issues better to the Republican base than two elected officials, they're in trouble after this debate.
Okay, Jason Johnson, it's still going on, but from you, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.